You want to what? Wesley put his game controller down and held the phone closer to his ear. It rang minutes after he had started a new match, and nearly a week had passed since she had called him instead of him texting her. Go hiking. Well, when? Now, if that's cool. Wesley looked around at Mark, Adam, and Zach sprawled all over the huge living room couch. Mark was rolling a joint on his stomach. Uh, well, I don't have much time. It could be another week before I'm able again. I gave someone my hours that wanted them. Wesley almost hesitated for too long before he spoke. I will if you took off. When should I be ready? Half an hour. Wesley looked down at the clothes he had been wearing for 3 days. Or had it been 4? He gulped. See you then. Later. Wesley made sure the connection had been severed before he turned to the others. You guys have to get out of here. She's on her way and I gotta be ready. Man, Mark pulled the joint out of his mouth that he was about to light. We just fucking got here. Tell her you gotta go bang a random hoe like I do when I gotta get rid of my woman. Zack slapped him in the leg. You don't have a woman or a random hoe. Mark sneered. Man, fuck you, hater. Adam grabbed handfuls of crackers and summer sausage off a plate on the coffee table to shove in his pockets. You all need to take it easy and just mooch off those with more money. That's anyone when you don't work. Zap tapped himself in the chest with his thumb. Like me. Adam grabbed an unopened soda and stood up. But I'm not in your house at the moment. Good thing. Zach looked at Wesley. Did you want us to tell you again? There's no reason. Zach looked at Mark and Adam and shrugged. Let's let Loverboy get ready. They murmured a response and followed Zach out the front door. They were climbing into Adam's car before anyone spoke. We gotta save him, Adam said. Zach shut his door. What the hell are you talking about? That succubus is gonna take our friend away. Adam slid the key into the ignition. Then I'll have to buy all the food I'd normally get from here. I may even have to get a job to go with the allowance my parents give me. Yeah, Zach shoved a dip in his left cheek and slipped the can back into his pocket. Would be a damn shame if you had to work for money like me. Adam snorted. You're just being a good cog in the economy. Step up to the free stuff. Cogs like me are paying for your free stuff. Adam put the car in reverse but didn't take his foot off the brake. Bullshit. It's all borrowed. The perpetual motion machine of our economic theory will continue into infinity. That doesn't even make sense. Zach rubbed his temples. You're giving me a headache. That's why you should just sling. Mark rubbed his hands together. Stay out of the system for good. Zach looked at Mark in the rearview mirror. You don't sling shit. People sling it your way every month when you get your disability check. And when I hook Wesley up, Mark crossed his hands and nodded. Yeah, I sling, motherfucker. You're outnumbered, Adam said. Zach looked around. By who? The people that rely on Wesley to survive. We can't have him distracted by a woman and not tending to her needs. Adam reached a fist over his shoulder for Mark to bump. Zach spat tobacco juice out the window. You fuckers are horrible. You know that crazy dad of his has plenty of money to go around? Adam finished pointing the nose of the car down the driveway. Especially since he has God knows how many kids running around he'll never pay for. I guess. Zach hung his arm out the window. Mark leaned forward and smacked Zach in the shoulder. I know you can think of one thing you get from him. I do like his mom's cooking, Zach smiled. Reminds me of Mom's before she started eating nerve pills by the handful. Adam slowed to let the gate open ahead of him. What does she cook now? Canned spaghetti. Bummer, Adam said. Better than ramen noodles the last half of each month, Mark shuddered. It's almost worth getting a job never to eat those things again. Adam stopped short of the main road. What are we doing? They all said follow him together. Wesley pulled the front door shut and followed Jennifer to her car, admiring her sleek body that glistened from a thin sheen of sweat. Can we take my car this time? I got my air conditioner fixed. Oh, thank God. Wesley paused with her hand on the door latch, watching Wesley walk to the other side. You look different. I've lost some weight, he laughed. I've not been able to drink beer since I got sick in the heat. Jennifer snickered. I'm not sure if I should say good or sorry. Both, maybe. They laughed, looking at each other over the roof for a second and climbed in. Where are we going hiking? Wesley fastened his seatbelt. Cumberland Falls. Where's that? About 30 minutes from here. She looked at him suspiciously. You don't know where the falls are? Well, you see, I've never been there. You've never been to one of the state's biggest tourist attractions. Does it have a roller coaster? It's a waterfall. Oh, in the mountains. There's a few there, actually. I see. There's like one bathroom at the place and you walk your ass off. No air conditioning? You're not drinking today. Yeah, but today we're getting fresh air and becoming one with our state's exploited nature. Wesley nodded. Sounds good. Jennifer looked over at Wesley's brand new sneakers. I hope you broke those things in. I've worn them a couple times. Do you want to get something more comfortable before we go? All my shoes are like this. You have nothing that looks like it's been worn for more than a week. Not really. Jennifer shrugged. I hope those things are really as good as they look. I'll find out. You sure will. Jennifer touched the pedals with one scarred hiking boot and got them on their way. The first part of the drive went fast since they were on a 4-lane highway. Then they crossed the Cumberland River, where they stopped for drinks, and the route narrowed. Large trucks used the road, and they were soon behind a logging truck that drove under the speed limit. Enough traffic came from the other direction that Jennifer couldn't pass. Instead, she set the cruise control and they enjoyed the Daniel Boone forest on either side of them. The road grew curvier and the forest closer to the asphalt as they talked about bad drivers and near wrecks. They passed a deer carcass being picked apart by a wake that ignored the traffic even though wind from vehicles ruffled their feathers. The smell of putrid flesh and 90-degree heat seeped into the car. More vultures circled above the road like they were at a buffet. Slower vehicles ahead of them turned off one by one until Jennifer was able to speed up to their destination. She pulled into a gravel parking area next to the river a few minutes later. We're not going on around to the falls? Wesley climbed out of the car. The roar of cascading water could be heard in the distance. A thin thread of trees separated them from the river where it sped up before the upcoming drop. We'll be able to see it from where we're going. Jennifer pointed at a path that led into the trees from the small parking lot. And Eagle Falls is about 1.5 miles that way. 3 miles round trip? Jennifer started a series of stretches. Yup. To walk? Unless you slide down what hills you can. Jennifer bent over, touched the ground, and straightened to reach as far as she could to the sky. But I wouldn't recommend it. There's more than a few cliffs you don't want to fall off. I remember being here now. Once. We went down to the river for 5 minutes and left without seeing the falls because Dad got a call from the office. Did you see anyone walking along the other side of the river? Maybe. That's where this goes. That doesn't seem too bad. Jennifer grinned and led him down the path. Zach slapped Adam in the shoulder. Don't park beside them. Adam let off the brake and kept going. Oh yeah. The fuck, man? Zach shook his head. Don't ever be a spy. You'll suck at it. They went around a curve and crossed a large rock bridge over the river. The road started to climb the mountain on the other side, but Adam turned into the paved parking lot to the state park. He stopped in the nearest spot with the walkway in front of them that went over the bridge they had just crossed. They climbed out and started back to the small lot half a mile away. Adam lagged far behind in his skinny jeans and heeled boots. Hey, wait up! Zach turned around and walked backwards. We'd never get anywhere if we waited on you. You're discriminating again. It's not discrimination if it's true. Mark took a hand out of his pocket, causing his left sneaker to disappear under his oversized pants leg. Yeah, get something you can move in. A gust of wind caught the folds of material hanging from his waist and caused him to stagger. Zach laughed. Or anything that doesn't strangle your balls or turn you into a kite. Adam sneered. Says Mr. Fashion in his work boots, blue jeans, and overpriced sports jersey and hat. Zach dug his old dip out of his mouth and threw it over the railing before stuffing another in its place. At least I can walk. Walking is old-fashioned. Like working. We'll have flying chairs, robot servants, and universal income before long. You can't wait until the government completely takes over, can you? Capitalism is dead in the water. It's time for socialism to fix things. Zach shook his head. The only problem ever fixed by socialism is having too many people in a country. All governments suck, Mark cut in. We should take them all out. Zach laughed longer and harder than he needed to. And then who'll give you a check every month? Mark dropped his head. Fuck you, man. Why me and not fuck you? You're the one draining the Social Security fund so no one can retire one day. Adam laughed. The government can just borrow more money or put more taxes on the rich. Yeah, fuck the man, Mark gave Adam a fist bump. Zach frowned. The man is people like me that work and have more taken from our checks. It's not my fault the masses made a few people rich by buying useless trinkets at their store and want to yell that those same people they made rich owe them something. How does that work? Adam and Mark looked at each other and laughed. Sucks for you, Mark said. Only rubes work, Adam said. The type that dip and wear work boots. And support multimillionaires that run around in the field in their underwear. And that voted for Trump. And that don't like free trade. And don't want the rich to pay. Zach clenched his fist. Why do you want rich people to pay? Explain the logic of making someone else rich and then expecting them to do for you. Mark and Adam's response was to beat on their thighs and laugh so hard their eyes teared up. Neither of them seemed Zach slipping close until his fist connected with Mark's jaw, dropping him. Adam didn't have time to react before a second swing smashed his nose with a wet crunch and his knees buckled. Jennifer pointed her phone over the cable that bordered the trail where it ran along the edge of a cliff. Most of their view was treetops, but a small gap gave them a bird's-eye view of the falls. Water vapor made the trees lower on the hill glisten in the sunlight. Here's the falls from a different angle. Wesley leaned on a metal post, flapping the bottom of his sweaty shirt. That's nice. Are we almost to the end? Jennifer shook her head. Maybe halfway. Damn. They continued along the path as squirrels and chipmunks scurried on either side of them. A red-headed woodpecker hammering on a tree in the distance was the only sound louder than their footsteps. The path wound its way back down the side of the hill until it became a set of metal steps attached to the side of a rock cliff that overlooked the river. Flood debris was caught in all the pinch points. The metal groaned and rattled as they went down several flights of steps to the rocks below. All traces of a path disappeared, and the route over the water-smooth stones was marked with spray-painted arrows. Cumberland Falls roared behind them. Despite the long walk, they weren't far down the river from its base. Larger flood debris, entire tree trunks lay about, making the way hazardous. They could hear the sound of a smaller waterfall ahead of them, but spent several minutes traversing obstacles before they were able to see water pouring over a moss-encrusted rock far above their heads. A pool too deep to leap across, had the slimy rocks allowed such an attempt, caught the water before it ran onto the river. Jennifer took pictures of it with her phone. This is Eagle Falls. Sounds like something you would go up for, not down. That's probably why it's a peaceful hike. Wesley sat down on a rock and rubbed his legs. I'm dying. I can see why no one comes out here. You should start working out. The asshole does have a gym in the basement. There you go. But no one is allowed in there when he's with his friends, so I'd have to do it while he's busy. Or just run around that big-ass property you set that bunker on. Or that. Jennifer stepped onto slimy rocks sticking out of the water and took a couple pictures straight up at the water that fell over the rock, spraying her with mist. A frog swam away as the stone she was on moved. She carefully stepped off, but her left shoe slipped, sending her forward so that she had to catch herself with one hand while holding the phone in the other. Wesley grabbed her hand and helped her stand. Are you okay? Jennifer shook her head and lifted her left foot off the ground. I twisted my ankle. Wesley looked around with his mouth hanging over. Should I call an ambulance? Jennifer groaned. Does it hurt that bad? No, you thinking a gurney could get down here does. What are we supposed to do? Help me back to the car. Wesley looked back the way they had came from. He could only see the top of the rusty stairs and the nearly vertical path beyond. You don't want to ride in an air ambulance? I won't fly. It's too bad we're not at the top of the hill so I could slide you down. Really? I'm just saying it'd be easier. Maybe in one way. In another it'd be 1,000 times harder. How so? I'd kick your ass with my good foot when I got to the bottom. Point taken. Jennifer put her arm around Wesley's neck. Grab my belt so I don't fall on the rocks. Wesley slipped his fingers under the back of her belt and felt her press against his right side as his knuckles brushed the top of her butt cheeks. There was a thong under her shorts. He felt a rise between his legs. Then he looked up at the rock-strewn path and the rickety metal stairs attached to the rock cliff, and it wilted. He froze, wondering what to do next. Jennifer bumped him with her hip. "The fuck we waiting for?" Wesley rubbed his eyes with his free hand. "Nothing." He carefully took his first step and helped Jennifer shuffle forward. Then he repeated it, over and over and over until they reached the bottom of the stairs 10 minutes later. His breathing intensified as he grabbed the railing to pull them up one step at a time as the metal quivered beneath them and their skin touched each time they moved. "I think you broke my nose." Adam held his nose tight to stop the bleeding. "You'll pay." Zach shrugged. "I know. You'll go to your Medicaid doctor." "Uck you." Mark dragged his feet along, rustling leaves with each step. "What are we actually going to do?" "We'll hide somewhere on the trail and jump Wesley when they come along. Rough him up a bit. Make him look like a pussy in front of her. Did you two bring your bandanas?" "Why can't I just pop a cap in his ass?" Mark pretended like he was holding a pistol sideways and pulling the trigger. Bang, bang, bang. Zach shook his head. "Because he's our friend. We only need to destroy his chances of a relationship to keep it like that." "Can I pop her?" "With what? Your BB gun? You're not killing anyone. Touch a woman in front of me and I'll pop you right over the fucking falls." Mark pulled a yellow bandana around the bottom of his face. "Man, I want to pop someone. Pop yourself one day and see what it's like." "I just might." Mark adjusted his bandana so it covered his whole face up to his eyes. "That'd show you." "You're an idiot." Mark shrugged. "And you're still bleeding from your last ass whipping." Zach pulled a camo bandana over his face. "And the two of you stand out like turkeys at a chicken fight." Adam patted the pink material that fluttered around his face. "What does that mean?" "You go to college. Figure it out." Zach stopped and held up a hand. "Someone's coming." He pointed at some large trees a few steps off the path. "Hide." They scrambled off the path, sending pebbles rolling down the nearly vertical drop of forested hill. The sound of roaring water came from the falls, invisible through the foliage, drowning out the noise they made. Only a rock cliff and the tops of pine trees could be seen far below. Zach ducked behind a rock so he could watch the trail curving out of sight around the side of the hill. Mark stood behind one of the trees, holding the front of his pants so the legs didn't get yanked on any briars that snagged them, while Adam spun in a circle in the middle of the path. Zach motioned for him to get down just as Adam's heels caught in the ground underneath him. He stumbled off the path and grabbed a sapling that stopped his slide on the layers of leaves covering the forest floor. He steadied himself as his feet slipped out from under him, and he tumbled down the hill in a ball of leaves, dirt, and gargled cries for help. He disappeared over the rock at the bottom while one of the treetops shook. "Do you think he's okay?" Mark tiptoed for a look. Zach hissed and pointed up the trail. Jennifer and Wesley were closer. "Get ready and let me do the talking." Mark nodded and adjusted his bandana. "We'll fuck him up like NATO fucked Libya." "Whoa, we're not gonna ruin him for generations to come." Zach put a finger to his lips. Wesley and Jennifer got closer. Slowly. Jennifer's left foot was lifted off the ground and Wesley was helping her along in a clumsy fashion that showed that he had never done so before. Their breathing was heavy and they didn't talk as they stared at the uneven path in front of their feet. Sweaty hair clung to the sides of their faces. Zach waited until they were close to his hiding place before he stepped onto the trail. "Give me your wallet, asshole." He tried to change his voice and hoped it was enough. They stopped. Wesley narrowed his eyes as if he recognized one or both of them. "Yeah, hand it over. Now." Mark waved a large stick in the general direction of Wesley's head. Jennifer launched herself into the air and slammed her right foot into the side of Mark's head. His eyes rolled back to show only whites as he and his stick tumbled down the same path Adam had taken. Zach's mouth dropped open as he watched Mark disappear at the bottom. He looked back just as Jennifer's palm smashed his nose flat. Blood spurted from under his bandana as his eyes watered up. He didn't see her second swing that clipped his chin, but only felt the hit and a weird weightlessness. He woke up caught in the branches of a tree with Adam and Mark on the ground beneath him, while leaves, dirt, and insects rained down from above. Wesley turned to Jennifer after watching the second masked man fall down the hill. "Didn't that hurt?" She grabbed his shoulder and pulled her foot off the ground. "Of course, but the adrenaline rush and all that." "Did you know them?" Wesley put his arm around her waist and slipped his thumb through a belt loop. "No. Did you?" I don't think so." "Let's get out of here before they find their way up." "Yeah." They started walking again, picking their way along the rough trail. The valley was falling into deep shadow by the time they reached the car, even though official sunset was still a couple hours away. Jennifer's vehicle was the only one in the tiny parking lot at the end of the trail. Everyone else had retreated once the forest turned gloomy. A few minutes passed while they talked about the hike and watched bats swoop at bugs flying around the one streetlight flickering over them. Jennifer started the car when the moon started to peek through the trees above them. Their chatter ceased as she concentrated on the dark, curvy road, speeding up for each straight and slowing to almost nothing for sharp turns. The few miles back to the main road seemed to take far longer than it should, but they made good time once they reached it. Both of them were yawning nonstop by the time Jennifer pulled into Wesley's driveway. Wesley exited and walked around to her window, bending down. "When do you think we can hang out again?" Jennifer shrugged. "I'm not sure. I have tests coming up at school, but I'll see what's up with work and give you a ring." Wesley took her hand and kissed the back of it before stepping away from the car. "I look forward to hearing from you again." Jennifer smiled and waved goodbye while she backed up. As she rolled down the driveway, she rotated her left ankle, stretching the tendons that had grown stiff from pretending to limp for so long.